Hi, Homeworthy. My name is Courtney, and I'm in Macon, Georgia. Welcome to my home. Come on in, let me show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Courtney, and I am an interior designer based in Macon, Georgia, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to our home. So I love homes with character, and my husband and I, we were living in Atlanta. We had looked at several different places, but when we walked into this house, it just felt like the right fit. It had all the old original hardwoods. It has the beautiful moldings. It's a little quirky, which I like. It needed a little love, which I also like because I like to fix things up and kind of put my twist on it. It was built in the 40s, so it's kind of that right time frame. And it's in a great neighborhood. We can walk around, sidewalks everywhere, so we've really enjoyed being here. We were actually living in Atlanta when we started looking for homes in Macon. And a big part of that was because we have family here. So my husband grew up here, and then my baby sister is here with her family. And I think one of the things that I've enjoyed most is having my nephews come over, and they just run around and they ask me questions about everything in the house. But we never had that in Atlanta. We didn't have family close by. And so being able to see them on a regular basis and them to come over to, they call us Aunt Coco and Uncle Randy. So for them to come over to our house and make memories with us here has just been really, really special. When someone walks into our house, I want them to get excited. I kind of want them to see the different collections and see the different pieces of art and ask me questions about those things, because everything in our house for the most part was purchased from an estate sale or from a buying trip. There aren't many new pieces here, so I really want people to be interested, but also feel like they could sit down, have a cocktail with me, you know, be relaxed, but maybe be transported from their own house into something a little bit different. So welcome to the living room. This is the front of the house. So when you walk into the house, this is the space that you come into. And I kind of wanted it to feel like a fun foyer cocktail lounge, but also a place that is warm and welcoming when you walk in. So I've got a lot of the collections that I mentioned kind of peppered around the room, and some of the things that I want to talk about. First of all is this really fun piece of art. So this is actually an artist from Atlanta. Her name's Karen Crawford, and she's super talented. So this is an abstract marsh scene, but I just loved the colors, and really I had this piece of art before I had anything in this room. This room was empty for a good 6 months when we moved into this house, and then I slowly started to fill it with things. So she was hanging up here for a long time without anything around her, and I just love that that's what you see when you walk in. On either side of the art, I have a pair of busts that I found at an antique store in Atlanta. It's called Antiques and Beyond, and a lot of the things in this house came from there too. It's lots of different vendors, so you have to dig, but these busts have been with me for a while, so they've always kind of found a place on the mantle wherever I live. And now they're here. So really like how they kind of frame out the piece of art. And then the blue and white, I had to mix a little bit of that in because, as I said, I don't like to be too predictable. So, you know, I kind of like a little traditional and a little funk and a little fun. So that's kind of our mantle pieces that I've collected. These were actually architectural pieces that I made into candlesticks. So put them on the lucite base, and then they made candlesticks on either side of the art. These chairs, so I did find these from a shop in Atlanta, and I really liked the fact that they were more of a modern look. So love the rounded back. They're kind of different. They're not what you would expect with a more traditional table. So I liked that. And then I found this really pretty fabric and had the pillows made to kind of pop some of the pretty chartreuse green that we see in Karen's piece of art right here. This table that's in between, this is a stacking table, nesting table, and it's more vintage mid-century. So again, kind of mixing it with the more traditional pieces, which I think makes it fun. And so I envision, people kind of sitting right here, having their martini or whatever cocktail they want, and having a little conversation, I feel like this is a good party space. That's kind of what I wanted people to feel when they came in. And then we have our really pretty flowers that a friend of mine helped me do, and she did a lovely job. But I like too that this kind of, this is our focal point. These are Victorian shell boxes, and I actually found this one on a buying trip to England, and then I went back to England and found more of them. And so now my collection has grown, and I always find things that I like, and sometimes I'll use them with clients, and sometimes I feel like, I might need to keep them for a little bit. So that's this little collection. And I like how it kind of brings some of the natural elements into this space. That is this little part of the living room. And then as we walk over, I had the settee made. And this fabric, it's a fabric based out of the UK called Hazelton House. And they did this chinoiserie fabric and this. But I like the juxtaposition of this, a little bit more traditional, it's skirted. It feels like it might fit with the table a little bit more than the chairs, but it all flows. So that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be a little bit more interesting than all one time frame. I love how this little fuzzy trim kind of, envelopes the pillows, and I'll come here and sit, with a glass of wine at night, and I love it. This piece, so this is a French commode with this beautiful marble, and I found this on my very first buying trip to France. So I went to Chateau, which is a flea market outside of Paris, and this little beauty was kind of sitting in the back corner of a tent, and I just had to have it. So this was my first purchase, and it made its way back to the States, and it has been in several different places with me. So when I first got it, I was still in an apartment in Atlanta. So it went up to my high-rise apartment. And then my first condo that I bought, it lived there, and now it's here in Macon. So it's seen a lot. It had already seen a lot before it came to me, and that's what I love about antiques, is that they all have they have a story. So we're not the first owner, we're just kind of carrying it through we're carrying the pieces to the next generation. So this is probably one of my favorite finds. And what I love about this piece is that I've had it in different places, but I've styled it in different ways. One of the fun things that I did in here, which I think is different, is I bought a pair of these lacquered lampshades. So pink is probably one of my favorite colors, especially this orchid color. And there is a lady that makes these shades. She's based out of Charlotte. I found them. I did not know where I was going to use them, and then I brought them in here, and I thought they were perfect. So I've got this one, and then I've got another lamp on the other side. The base is different, but the shades are the same. So kind of a little bit of symmetry. This was also something that I found when I was in France. We went back at the end of March. I saw this in an antique shop, and the glass was broken and it needed a little love, but I decided I could do it. So it came over in June on our last shipment, and it found its way here to my living room. Over on the other side in this space, we have another fun table that I found in Avignon, and it's a Italian table, but this real pretty orange marble. I just loved it. I just thought the color was great. So I bought this as well. And like I said before, I'm supposed to be buying for my shop, but a lot of times it's hard for me to part with things. So this little table, I just thought it was the perfect size for this space in the living room. And I've just styled it with some different, I love little match strikes. I'm loving all the little match strikes right now. And this fragment I found and just put the fragment on the lucite base. And then some art with, these are actually Italian marbleized plates. And these came from an estate sale in Albany, Georgia, which is where I grew up. But the yellow color, I just thought the yellow was so pretty. So it all kind of, it's all a little different, but it all ties in because we've got some of the yellow and the orange and greens and just different colors, but it all, to me, feels like it fits here in this vignette. So yeah, really fun. And I love the little tassels. It just kind of gives it an extra little touch over here. I found this piece at Scott's Antique Market. And for those of you that are familiar with Atlanta, Scott's happens the second weekend of every month, and it is a treasure trove of different antiques, art, just all kinds of things. So I really love to go. I like to go on Thursdays because that's when it opens. So I get the pick of the items that are there. And there was a dealer that had this piece of art, and it's signed Harold Messalon, 91, but on the back it says it was in the Boston Museum of Art. So I loved it. It didn't really matter to me that it was signed or any of that. I just thought the colors were great, but it's kind of a fun little story. I think these colors, you know, again, kind of that orchid, the plums, the yellows, we've got a few, you know, darker blues in here. It all ties in to this space. So even though, you know, not everything's matchy-matchy, to me it all flows. And then the last little thing I want to show you guys over here, I have another really artistic friend who does these intaglios. And so she let me meet with her, and we put the intaglios into this kind of fishbowl, and I just love it. And so that was really fun to kind of help her with that creative process, but also just kind of a different fun piece of art to add to the walls in the living room. So welcome to the sunroom. This is probably my favorite space because it's really cozy, it's small, and I decided to paint it a really rich chocolate brown just to give it a little bit of, you know, moodiness and create that cozy, warm feeling, because this space is where I'll come in the morning to drink some coffee. My husband and I will come out and have a little cocktail in here. I just love it. It is my favorite room. So it's not probably, it is my favorite room. And the big thing that I kind of centered the design of this room around is this really pretty hand-tooled Italian leather chinoiserie screen. So I had initially purchased this to resell, and I found it, another really good friend of mine, a vendor friend, had this piece at Scott's Antique Market, and I had never seen one quite like this. I just thought the colors were so rich and beautiful, and you know, even though it's kind of cracking in spaces, I love that because it shows the age. And I decided when we bought this house that I was no longer going to sell it. I was going to use it in this room. And it works perfectly because it feels like to me that it was always supposed to be in this space. It's kind of funny that it was the perfect size. So it really just takes up this whole back wall. And I've had neighbors tell me that they love to ride by at night because it's lit up and so you can really see it from the road. And so that's really fun to me too, is that it's a focal point for other people. So when we talk about home and we talk about sharing our home with our friends and neighbors and family, it's really fun that our neighbors are also getting to enjoy a piece of our home, you know, as they ride by at night. With this piece, I mixed in, so I've got this modern burled cabinet that previously was in my dining room, and I loved it up against this chinoiserie screen because it's fun, it's, you know, kind of lighthearted. I love burl anything. These pair of lamps were also in my dining room, so they just kind of transitioned to the sunroom, and then I threw in some other little fun accessories that I've collected along the way. I have this really fun coffee table book about poolside with Slim Aarons. I love his photography. He's one of my favorites. And then I thought this real pretty glass bowl brought out the deep blues and teals in this chinoiserie screen. And we have a pair of slipper chairs that I found at a consignment store in Atlanta, and they lived in our basement in Atlanta for a little bit before I decided what to do with them, and they're perfect in here. So I had them recovered in this Schumacher velvet and had some more animal print pillows made because I do love animal print. And so we, you know, when we have a crowd of people in here, all the seats are taken, and these are actually pretty comfortable. And I like that they're smaller so that you can see the screen better. So it's a good little chair for that. And then over here, I have a piece of art that I purchased from Greg Irby in Atlanta. This artist is A.K. Hardiman, and I liked how it was darker. I liked how it's a statement piece, but it also blends in with everything else. I just thought it was made for this room. So got this, hung it here. This is my favorite little comfy chair where I sit and have my coffee in the morning. And it's also in a Schumacher velvet. And then this sofa has lived with me for a long time too. And I decided when we moved here that I was going to recover it in a fun lilac color. So before it was more of a neutral, and I loved kind of the light purple of this fabric, and so had that recovered. It's also a really nice, you know, piece that's lived with me, and I do think if you buy quality, you can take it with you and maybe, you know, you just use it in a different space. So now instead of it being in our living room where it lived before, it's now in our fun sunroom. And so, so that's the story about behind the little love seat. And then these pair of lamps, I also found these at a antique store in St. Simons. So I had a client, I had gone down to see her, and she had these lamps. And I said, Molly, where did you find these lamps? And she told me, and so I had to go get myself a pair. And so I got these fun shades, put these on these teal lamps, and it really works nicely in this room. It just really pulls, you know, I think my thought behind this space was not to have too many loud fabrics or anything, but really to keep it soft, but keep it interesting, keep it cozy, and I really love how it all turned out. The last piece I want to show you in here, because I love a moody lady, is my first moody lady portrait that I found on my first buying trip to Round Top, Texas. So she, you know, she has to come with us too. And I do like a moody lady. So now she's here, and when we come in here to sip our coffee, she's watching. But I like it. She's part of our family. So that is our sunroom. Welcome to the dining room. We've never had a formal dining room, and so this has been really fun for me to decorate this space. The starting point for this room was the really pretty Brunswick and Fee bird and thistle wallpaper. I always loved it, and so I started with that, and then from that I picked a color from the wallpaper, I really liked the kind of the lighter blue in the birds, and so did a Faro and ball paint on all of the trim. And I went high gloss because I love a little shine. I love things shiny. So we did the ceiling, we did all of the trim work in the pretty Faro and ball paint. And then the room just kind of came together from there. So one of the pieces that I love in this room is actually a pair of, they were actually bookshelves, and they were in an artist apartment in New York City, and then they made it to an estate sale in Mobile, Alabama, and one of my clients called and said, "Courtney, I think you need to get these." And so I did, and I've never used them for books. They've always been in my dining room, but they're a great place to store our silver, our little knickknacks we can pull out when we're setting the table. They've really been a pretty kind of space for those types of things. And the mirrors above these I just thought were fun because they're not traditional. They're a little bit more funky. And so I love the kind of Art Deco shape with these. I think it makes it really interesting. And then these fun shades on these little lamps that I found at an estate sale here in Macon. The other piece in this room that I was really excited about, and this came from an estate sale in Albany, is this painting. I just thought the colors were so pretty. And it's signed, and so now I've been researching this artist who it says on the internet was really famous out of England. So anyway, it made it to our dining room. I really love this pop of clear pedestal, and found this again at Antiques and Beyond along with the bust. So I thought this was the perfect little spot for this to live, and it just creates another little bit of interest. It's not the same, so I liked that in here. And then these pair of sconces were actually found on a buying trip. So they were sitting in a field, and I loved them. And so I got them wired, and now they're in their perfect home in the dining room space. I love a pretty table setting. I think it's so much fun. I think you can have I'm a little bit of a sucker for china. I've got lots of it in the kitchen that I need to break out and use. Our pattern is tobacco leaf, and I picked it because I liked all the different colors. So I'm definitely a fan of color. I do not shy away from it, and I love to mix it. So these are our pretty dessert plates, tobacco leaf. And these also are French glassware. I started buying, I would buy a couple, and then I'd buy a couple more, and then I'd buy a couple more. And so over time I've collected enough to actually have a dinner party, and they're just so pretty to me. This is probably one of my favorite colors, is this blue. So I think these set this dining room table off and just give it a little bit of a different look. And then, of course, I'd have some pretty silver, and that's another thing that my mom actually had 2 patterns, and I'm the oldest of 3 girls, so I thought, well, I don't know if I'll get that silver, so I'm just gonna start collecting my own. And so I started collecting Strasbourg by Gorham, and love how the silver just sets off the tablescape. And I'm definitely a fan of, and a lot of people have said this, if you have it, use it. Like, don't hide it. Definitely bring out the pretties, because otherwise, why have it? And I just love how it all comes together. I think now that I have this all set up, I want to have a fun dinner party. And the other thing that I want to talk about are these fun lampshades. These are actually Lee Jaffa fabric. Love the kind of marbleized look of these shades. So I thought the different colors, they were fun. It just kind of pulled this room together. In a nutshell, I really think my personal style is very eclectic. I do like traditional pieces of furniture, but then I love to throw in a fun piece of art or a funky accessory that I found digging through antique stores. I try to do something a little bit unexpected. So It's, you know, what I say, traditional with a twist, but fun. You know, it kind of, I want you to keep thinking and not really, maybe not be able to quite pinpoint my style. I think that's what's fun and interesting about our house. Probably some of the things that I've done in this house that, you know, I may or may not be able to do with a client. In our kitchen, we kept all the original cabinetry, but when we moved in, the kitchen was all white. And so I decided, you know, instead of us doing a total kitchen renovation, that I would just paint everything the same color. So I did color drench it a little bit, but I did not paint the ceiling. But that was a risky move that a lot of people might not have taken, because a lot of people like just an all clean white kitchen, but I really wanted to give it a little bit more drama and kind of change it up from what we saw when we came to look at the house. So I'm really glad I did it. It gives it a different look, and we didn't have to go gut our kitchen. We have a different look just by a little paint. Welcome to our kitchen. This space, when we purchased it, was all white. And so when we decided we weren't going to renovate it off, you know, that wasn't going to be the first project we did, I decided to pick a really fun color to paint it all. And so it started with just the cabinets, and this color is a Benjamin Moore color. It's called Dartmouth Green. And so we painted all the cabinets this green color. We redid the hardware, and when they got painted, I said, I really feel like everything just needs to be painted this same pretty color. So that's what we did. We painted it all one color, and I've really loved how it has warmed up this space. It makes this space feel unique. I love like the old, like the English kitchens and how they kind of have things everywhere and lots of color. And so that's what I wanted this to feel like. We painted everything, we did the hardware, and then it had, in here we had recessed lighting, and so we took out all of the recessed lighting, and in its place, we put these fun lights from Visual Comfort. So I really like how that kind of changed it up to it, gave it a different look. I got this rug because I loved the pink with the real pretty blue color. I just thought it was really nice. And then from there, I found this fun Elliston House fabric that I made into a Roman shade, which pulls in some of the darker, you know, it has some purple and gold and a little red, and it doesn't match exactly this rug, but I like that. I loved the butterflies. And then I just decided, I love little lighting in the kitchen, so I do like kind of that ambiance. And we have this little mirror. I just thought it was cute right here. My husband loves it, said it makes him look good right here when he looks in this mirror. So hey, it's a win-win. And because he's a really good sport with all the decorating I do. So that's for Andy. And then around the space, I hung art. So I kind of wanted it to feel like not really a kitchen, you know, a place where people hang out, but maybe less of a sterile kitchen and more of a warm place to prop. So I've got this fun collage piece that I hung, and I loved the orange and kind of bringing in some different colors. And then over on the far side over here, I've got another figurative portrait of a lady that I found at Scott's. So same kind of, you know, rich colors. And then the stool I had recovered from an antique store down in Fairhope, Alabama. But I think it works. And I love lighting up art, and I love the fact that now we can do rechargeable lights. And so I've used those a lot around the house, and it's just fun. It just pops a little light on there and showcases some of the fun pieces that we have around the kitchen. So just wanted to show y'all too these cute bar stools. So these are actually from Ballard Designs, who is based out of Atlanta. I just found this cute fabric and recovered the seats so that the colors would flow with this kitchen. And we love to sit up here. This is where we eat dinner most nights when we're not going out to eat, because we do eat out a lot. But we love just propping up here, having breakfast, lunch, dinner. I wanted this to just be a fun little bar area where any of our friends, family, they come over, they can make themselves a cocktail. And I've put a little, some little curiosities in here too. And one of those is this tortoise snuff box. So this is actually from England that I found on another buying trip. And then I've got these cute, mid-century glasses that I like. So I like to mix. I've got all my glassware kind of up above this space, and I love it. Just kind of come in, have a cocktail, sit on the bar stool, and relax. Welcome to our keeping room. This room is actually right behind the kitchen. And so this is where we hang out a lot because we have a TV down here, so we can sit in these comfy chairs, watch TV in the morning. When I'm not in my sunroom, I like to come in here and drink coffee, and then it looks out over our patio. So there's a real pretty view. But I wanted this space to feel very organic and kind of pull nature in, because you've got the outside and I wanted it just to feel cozy, but also I feel like it's become my cabinet of curiosities, because this is where a lot of my collections live, is in this keeping room. And this is where, when we do have our nephews over, they are very, very intrigued. So they love to pick up the things and ask Coco what they are, which is fun, as I'm, grabbing it and putting them on shelves so they can't reach everything. But one of my favorite collections in here are these mother of pearl card cases. So a friend of mine started this collection for me. She was my real estate agent, and she helped me sell my first condo. And when we went to closing, she gave me a really pretty card case. And so from there, I've just started collecting. So as I find them on buying trips, at Scott's, I've found a couple, I purchase them. And I love these different, this is abalone and mother of pearl, which I think is so pretty. This is the tortoise and mother of pearl. People always ask me what these are. So this is definitely a conversation topic. And I love how they just kind of sit on this little coffee table, and they're just really pretty. So that's one of the collections that I've put into the keeping room. Over here, I've started kind of building a gallery wall, and when we first moved in, it was just these plates and this art, and it just continues to grow because that's what I like to do. I just keep going. More is more. And I'm really loving how it's all coming together. So it's a mix of, oyster plates, art. This is also an Atlanta artist. Her name is Melissa Payne Baker. And I love the colors in this. So it ties in really well with more animal print. This floral botanical, I just thought that was so pretty on these old French chairs. So I bought these and then had them recovered. Found this fun chinoiserie lampshade store in Atlanta called Edgar Reeves. And so got this cute shade on this lamp. Found this real pretty green opaline box. So love her. And she sits up here. But I just love how this all kind of came together. And a lot of times when we have friends over, we do sit here because we can sit 6 people comfortably. Everybody has a chair. And these all swivel so we can turn for conversation, and then it's fun too because people ask me questions like, what are these? And where did you find this pretty plate? So it's a really fun spot to kind of sit, relax. These doors open to the outside so we can let the fresh air in, which I really love. This is another fun lampshade a friend of mine made. It's called Hartman Lane. But I just love all these fabric shades. I just think they're so fun. Find the older lamps and then put your fun spin on it with a fun fabric shade. So this space, initially when I thought, hey, we need to redo the kitchen, I was gonna kind of combine and have this as more of a eat-in area, but I'm really glad I didn't, because like I said, this really is the spot where we like to hang out. A couple more fun pieces of art that I have. This one piece is another Atlanta artist. Her name's Renee Bouchon. And I purchased this years and years ago, but I just, again, love the colors. I've collected art for a long time, and so now I feel like this piece is perfect for the keeping room. And then these two pieces, this is actually a Sally King Benedict, and she lived in Atlanta. Now I think she's out in Colorado, but this is the size I could afford of her art, and I just love her. And so I bought a little Sally King Benedict, and I thought the colors in this piece and then this vintage Hermes scarf really complemented each other. But I also like how this is in lucite, so it's not in a traditional frame, so it keeps it kind of light and airy and fun, and it's not so serious. So now come on upstairs. I want to show you the primary bathroom and bedroom. Welcome into the primary bedroom. We decided to make this our space upstairs, but we are in the attic. So we definitely have, you know, the fun roof lines of being in this space. So with that being said, I just painted everything the same color so that it would all kind of blend in. And I decided to use this really pretty Schumacher fabric as a jumping off point for this bedroom. So I've always loved this. Here again is my teal, so I love that color. And I pulled it in with some linens that I found from another Atlanta, Sullivan and Phoenix out of Atlanta. And then these are actually biscuit home. So I just mixed the two of these and then had this pretty bolster made with the Schumacher fabric. And so I really love how it all ties together with the pattern shades on these lamps. So these are lamps that have been with me for a while too. Lived in different rooms, but I love these shades. It kind of breathes some new life, and I think they look really cute right here. Had the headboard made. There's actually a window back here. And so I decided to just cover up the window because it was an awkward shape. And so I had the guy who makes my upholstery make it big and tall. And I like how it just fills up the back of this wall. I'd already found these little corner stools, and these are another Schumacher fabric, and I didn't have them recovered. That's how they've always been, but I think it works. It's that same pine hollyhock fabric that's down in the sunroom, but it's pretty and it's a neutral to me. And so I put those in the dormitory windows along with this really fun kind of Leo Connell fabric that I recovered the ottoman with as well. So I pulled those two pieces together to kind of tie that in, and then use the same Samuel & Sons purple ribbon tape to kind of tie in the colors. And I think it's very relaxing. This is, you know, where I like to come. I will sit here too and drink coffee. I'm a big coffee drinker. Probably need to stop. This is a good little spot to perch. These chairs have been recovered many a times too. They've been in my living room, but now they're perfect right here. So we have a good little perch here, and then we have another moody lady. This is another piece I found on a buying trip to France. So this piece they're actually artists from Florence, and so they paint different types of art, and they're on these torn like sheets. And so I got several pieces from this guy in France when I went, and I just thought the colors were so fun, and I like how she's kind of cubist. It reminds me a little bit of Picasso. And then I framed it in this pretty blue frame, and it's with a barley twist writing table. So I like how this room has a little bit, again, of the antiques, the new, We have a lacquered piece over here. So it just keeps it fun and fresh. It's not too expected. Also, you know, just using pieces that are already had in different ways. And I'm really glad, I like how it turned out. So welcome to the primary bathroom. This was the big project because when we started, it was actually half this size. So the toilet was actually here where the shower is. And we had a pedestal sink right here. This is actually where our chimney comes up, so we couldn't do anything here. So there's a pedestal sink here. And then over on this side, where we have our vanities, there was a shower. So what we did was we expanded, so we knocked the walls out on both sides and took part of the space. This is actually another bedroom, which has become a closet, but I'm not gonna show that to you all today. It became part of the bathroom. So created a separate water closet, which I love. And then I created this double vanity. So Andy and I love it because before we were in a smaller condo and we didn't have any storage, we didn't have any space. And this has just been a lifesaver, having a double vanity. And what I decided to do, instead of, you know, putting newer mirrors, I had found these at Scott's Antique Market, and we put those in the bathroom, and I just love how they turned out in here. I think it kind of brings that old world feel with some of the newer fixtures and finishes. I'm not afraid to mix, so I do love to mix, you know, a little polished nickel with a little brass. I think that's kind of fun and interesting. And I wanted to wallpaper this space, so I found this beautiful wallpaper and we just took it all over. We took it over the ceilings, so when you walk in here, I really feel like it feels more like a spa. I just love how it turned out. And this is the original clawfoot tub. And so, you know, when we decided to undergo this project, I was talking to my sister. I was like, what do you think? Do you think we need to get a new tub? And she was like, yes, you definitely need to get a new tub. This was actually bright yellow, so it looked like a school bus. But I had our contractors move it out to the loft area and I painted it. So this was my project. I actually painted it this cream color. And I love having a tub, and I love having this old clawfoot one. I just think it would have not been the same if I had gotten a new tub in here. So put this back where it was and then created 2 cabinets on either side so that we would have more storage. I would have a little spot where I could put my makeup on in the morning. And we've just, you know, we've loved it. And then the shower, funny thing about the shower, I'd ordered some tile and the tile guy called me and he's like, Courtney, is this right? And I was like, oh, no, it's not right. That's not the right color, because it wasn't the right color. But it turned out perfect. I actually really like the green color. It was supposed to be something a little different than this, but it really flows nicely. And I'm glad I did something a little different. It's not just the white. I love the marble look too, but this is just fun for us. So yeah, so this is our little shower. These light fixtures, and I found, you know, these are visual comfort, but I decided instead of doing them all the same that this is the Gramercy fixture, and I've always liked it. So I mixed it up because we had 3 spots. So instead of it being perfectly symmetrical, which this room is not perfectly symmetrical anyway, I mixed it up with this one in the middle. We have our pretty towel rack and linens underneath it. And it just creates a little bit more, you know, that visual interest I was talking about. It's something to talk about, and many people that have come here to see our bathroom, they comment on the fact that, you know, they're not all the same, and it's not just can lighting. It's, you know, it's fun. So I've had a very interesting career path. I actually, out of school, I worked for a decorator from my hometown, but throughout college, I was always creative. So I would go to Mart in Atlanta and I would buy jewelry and sell it at sorority parties and get furniture and paint it and take orders. I always loved that side of life, I guess, just being creative. And so when I got out of college and worked for the decorator in Atlanta that was from my hometown of Albany, she really gave me that confidence to dive a little bit more into interior design. I really didn't even know that interior design was a profession. My family is all medical based, and so that was never even something that I thought about. But she kind of taught me a little bit more about the antiques and the mixing pieces, and so that started my journey. And I've always had the design business, but then the antique part of it too. I just think it's a lot of fun. I love going on sourcing trips, going to France and going to England and buying different things. And even if it's not for myself or a client, it can go into my space in Atlanta. And I've kind of seen my career evolve from helping Kay in the early days to really becoming more confident in my style and kind of developing as I went out on my own and started Courtney Moss Design. So I do have a favorite item that I like to source when I go on buying trips, and that is art. I just love to, it could be a piece that's laying on the ground outside of a tent. I love big pieces, small pieces. A lot of the pieces in my home are pieces that I've found on buying trips. And art is just such a fun way to add a different personality to your home. So I think that's probably my favorite thing that I like to look for when I go abroad. Okay, so welcome to our grown-up playroom is what I like to call it. It's actually our loft area. So as you walk up the stairs from our keeping room, this is where you land. And I wanted it to feel fun, more casual, very laid back, a space where we can come watch football on the weekends. We can have our nephews, nieces up here. We don't have to worry about them grabbing stuff off the table. It's just very easy. And when we moved to Macon, we didn't have any furniture for up here, really. We had a few pieces, but we decided to get his and her sofas. So that is my sofa. This is Andy's sofa. So we love to come up here, watch TV. This is a lucite coffee table that I actually found in Asheville, North Carolina. It has been in my formal living room. It's been different places. And then this little tree, I have to give a shout out to my mother. She bought this for me, and I love the braided trunk, but it's actually called a money tree. And growing up, she would always say, money doesn't grow on trees. So now I have my money tree, which I love. And the last little piece of this room is my mahjong table. We've all, gotten into mahjong, and so I have a group. We try to play each Sunday, and we'll come up here, bring our wine and hors d'oeuvres, and we'll play a little mahjong. So, love this little space. It's just a fun little hangout room. So welcome to the powder room, and I really like this space. It's fun, it's darker, but when we bought it, all this tile was already on the wall, so it's antiqued mirrored tile, and my husband really didn't like it, but I thought, I think we can work with it. We got this real pretty console sink from Waterworks and put that in here, and then had this fun shower curtain made. This is a faux bois fabric, so I think it flows, from the keeping room into this bathroom. It kind of stays a little bit organic. And then I just found the mirror at another one of my hunting trips, digging through an antique mall, and put the mirror up here, and then put this piece of art that I had framed. I found this at Scott's Antiques as well, and then I'd collected this frame previously, so decided to go with a darker matte on here to kind of pull out some of the olive colors in the piece of art, and I like how it turned out. Okay, so welcome to our guest bedroom. This was actually the original primary bedroom, but we decided to go upstairs and make that space ours. So this is where our guests stay when they come to visit us. I just love the simplicity of the colors. So these are just some Matouk shams, and then I had these pillows made with the pretty trim down the middle. I like this kind of the classic soft colors, and found this piece of art from Greg Irby in Atlanta. That is one of my go-to art galleries when I'm shopping around. Just thought this was fun. I liked the texture on it, and the size is perfect for above this bed, so it works. And then we have a little, this is actually a French bistro table that now we use as a vanity. So if you're staying here, you can get ready and have your little mirror set up. It's very girly, so my nieces and nephews from Fairhope, the girls wanted to know if they had a room here, and I said yes they did. And it's called the pink room, and they've wondered why I haven't painted it pink yet, so I guess I'm gonna need to do that. But lots of pink, real girly, so it's ready for them when they come to stay with us. And I just love, it's just a welcoming little space. I love how it just feels good and airy and light, and some of my favorite colors, again, the pinks and blues and greens. What does home mean to me? I think that is a really big question because I think it's a lot of things. The biggest thing for me is to be surrounded by family and friends. And this home has given us the opportunity to do that. We're now, right down the street from our loved ones, and I think that's great. I also think it's being surrounded by things that are important to you. So the objects that you've brought from one home to the next, and now they're living somewhere new, but they're still traveling with you because they're special. So the piece of art that I found at Round Top, and now it's in the sunroom, and it's just having a sense of yourself, but then also opening it up to other people and feeling like your home is a place of love.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.